All right, here we go, guys. Last time together for Fall Retreat 2022. How are you guys doing this morning? Everybody feeling good? Man, it has been just an amazing couple of days with you guys, and my hope is that these couple of days will define the rest of your days. My hope is that these couple of days together will define the rest of your days. And we started by looking at a metaphor, this idea that we all have a birthday, that we have the start of our journey and our journey continues. And those journeys go up and we each will have amazing days in our lives. And then we have moments that journey goes down and we will face some of the darkest, hardest things that take our breath away. And that is the cycle of life, ups and downs, until all of a sudden that journey comes to its last day. And on our last day, that part of us that's more than flesh and blood, bone and marrow, that part that is 1,000% made for eternity will step into eternity. Your soul enters eternity. And eternity is either spent forever with God in heaven, which is amazing and good and true and everything holy and right and enjoyable, or it will spend eternity apart from that in a place called hell that is everything evil and broken and screwed up in the world, fully released for eternity. Eternity and that decision, that moment of which way we will spend it is completely based upon what we do with Jesus. And so this weekend, we've been looking at how we have these encounters with Jesus, but along the way, we have another set of encounters, and that's encounters with Satan. And we've been talking about how Satan is the enemy of God. He hates God. He wants God to hurt. And because he hates God, the best way to hurt God is he knows he can't go after God because God is too strong, so he goes after you. He goes after me. He's coming for God's children because the best way to hurt the parent is to hurt the kid. And so Satan hates you, and he comes to each and every one of us, and he starts whispering incredible lies. Lies that he desperately hopes will confuse you, that will make you slip into his grasp, and that by those lies, he is able to steal you for eternity away from your heavenly Father, steal you away from God, that he can trick you into spending eternity apart from God. But we've also been looking at what happens. What happens when we encounter Jesus and start exploring the truth that Jesus says to those lies? What happens when we encounter Jesus in a way that combats those lies? And those encounters make all the difference in our lives. Because those are the encounters that can change the trajectory of eternity and our days until then. And we've looked at three different examples, three different encounters that have happened along the way. The first encounter with the microphone. I tightened up everything. Is that better back there? All right, we'll keep going. We'll see what happens. Satan also doesn't like microphones. That's my thing. First encounter that we looked at was the encounter with the rich young ruler, and the lie that he was being whispered is that he can be good enough. He can achieve enough. He can define the rules of how to appear and how to act and how to behave, and he can get his act together well enough that he can then earn his way into heaven, that he can get it all together. And so he worked so hard to appear a certain way. And when he encountered Jesus, he encountered the truth that Jesus doesn't need you to perform. He doesn't need you to behave a certain way, look a certain way, sound a way, achieve a certain thing. What he wants is your heart. And he wants you to cling to him. Second, we encountered the lie that Satan whispers to us on the other end. Some of us are trying to be good enough. Some of us just feel like we are utterly too bad. And the lie is that our shame defines us, and our shame holds us, and our shame keeps us away from God because we're too bad for God. And we encountered the woman at the well who was scandalously the worst of the worst of the worst within that society. And what we discover is that when she encountered Jesus, she didn't encounter shame. She encountered love. She encountered grace. She discovered that God is not mad at her. God is madly in love with her. And then last night, we encountered a third lie. And this lie was the lie that for those of us who have trusted Jesus, for those of us who are going to heaven, for those of us who are saying, Jesus, I need you, the lie that gets whispered to us once we cross that line of faith and make that declaration, the lie that gets whispered to us is the lie that's enough, that we can be just enough Christians, that we can stay exactly where we are, that we don't need to do anything, we don't need to learn anything, we don't need to push anything, we can just stay nice and tame and calm and simple and just stay over in the corner and play nice with everybody. But we encounter this man named Nicodemus, and we see in Nicodemus' life that Jesus loves him too much to leave him where he finds him, and he graciously encounters him as a seeker, and he wrestles with his questions, deepening his faith, and then he moves him from wrestling to figuring out what does it look like to stand up publicly for your faith, and then as he moves from standing up and speaking up from his faith, what does it look like to actually sacrifice for his faith, and to say, Jesus, I'm all in no matter what it costs. And today we're going to finish with one last lie. One last encounter. And I need to set this counter up just a little bit, because what I'm about to talk about has nothing to do with my politics, has nothing to do with my opinions. And I'm not trying to push an agenda here. I'm not trying to push any of you towards something. And if you feel at any moments that I'm trying to tilt the cards in my favor to show you what my opinions are, I just need to tell you that you're not listening, and I need you to pay attention better, because none of this is political. But I need to just talk about 2020 for a second. Did anybody else think 2020 was really hard? Anybody else think that was a crazy year with lots of crazy things happening? And in the midst of all of the crazy stuff that was happening, I realized something. I realized that we, for those of us who follow Jesus, for the most part, I think we kind of missed it. I think we kind of screwed up that year. And I think because we did, Satan had a heyday with us. And I think Satan had a heyday with the gospel message. See, no matter where you landed on all the landmine topics and issues that happened within that year, mask, no mask, blue lives, black lives, Republican, Democrat, no matter where you landed, no matter what your personal opinion is, our behavior, our response, our posture, our words, our tone can never be shaped by our response to encountering the world. It always must be shaped by what we've encountered with Jesus. Our response cannot be because of what we've encountered in the world. It has to be because of what we've encountered with Jesus. And in 2020, I watched Christian after Christian after Christian respond to nothing like a Christian should, responding full of hateful words, attacks with whining and complaining. And it broke my heart as I saw it happening within me, and I saw it happening within my family, and I saw it happening within my communities. And what broke my heart was, as this happened, the world watching us, who is desperate to know, does Jesus make a difference? Does Jesus actually bring love and joy and peace and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control? Does Jesus actually matter? Looked at so many of us and just rolled their eyes. And they said, you claim to know Jesus, the author of life, the author of love, author of grace, the author of sacrificial living? Man, they just scoffed at so many of us. And they're like, man, that doesn't make a difference. See, in 2020, many of us, we were just as hopeless and angry and bitter as everyone else. Guys, when we encounter Jesus, truly encounter Jesus, we should be fundamentally changed, and that we should be shifted and reprioritizing everything that we reprioritize our entire life around the gospel. We come back to centering on Jesus first and foremost in every way that we respond. And the thing that struck me was that we have got to be all in about Jesus. We got to be all in about Jesus, because when life gets hard, how we respond shows what Jesus has done in our lives. And the world needs us to either be all in for Jesus or all out for Jesus. To be all in for Jesus or all out for Jesus. And the lie that Satan loves to whisper to you, the lie that he worked so deep within our culture that we saw everywhere in 2020, was the lie that it's okay to be in the middle. It's okay to kind of just be lukewarm. Not too hot, not too cold, just okay. That it's actually okay to just kind of I don't know, God, where am I at? What am I doing? And in fact, when we find ourselves lukewarm in our faith, that's actually the worst place to be in our faith. Because Satan, he can convince the world that Christians or followers of Jesus are actually just like them, respond just like them, live like them, and get angry like them, cuss and fuss and retaliate just like them. If Satan can convince the world that being a follower of Jesus doesn't really make a difference, listen to this, he can convince the world that Jesus really doesn't make a difference. So here is my request as we wrap up Fall Retreat 2022. My beg, my plea, the thing that I want us to walk out of here with today, the thing that if you put a stake in the ground, let it be on this. My beg is to go extreme, to either go fully in with Jesus or just call a spade and go fully out. Go fully in with Jesus. Go all the way, fully commit, saying, I'm all in, Jesus. You can have all of me, and I'm with you. Or just own it that you're lukewarm and just keep your mouth shut. Go all in or go all out, but get out of the middle. Get out of the middle that is lukewarm and mundane and confusing and causes other people to say, like, does Jesus actually make a difference? Get out of the middle, because in the middle we become tools in the hand of Satan. Satan may have lost you for eternity, but he will use you to keep others for eternity. Because if we're just mundane blah in the middle, then how does Jesus make a difference? How would the world ever know? Satan may have lost you for eternity because you trusted Jesus. But he may be using your lukewarm, in the middle life to be winning others for eternity. So guys, my question, my beg is, will you go extreme? Will you go all in with Jesus? Or will you just say, I'm all out? Will you refuse to waffle in the middle? Because the world does not need another lukewarm, powerless Christian walking around claiming they're a life changed by Jesus. Guys, because there's a lot of confusion around what it means to be a follower of Jesus, what type of life I'm calling you to, because there's a lot of people who've gotten this wrong and they've confused with being a follower of Jesus with being a certain political stance or a certain Instagram profile or a certain way that we talk. Because there's confusion around that, I want us to actually encounter Jesus this morning for ourselves. And I want us to go back and remind ourselves of what does it mean to be a follower of Jesus, to encounter Jesus for ourselves. And to remember that when Jesus was pressed and when he was pushed, how did he respond? And then tell us to go live likewise. What does it mean to be extreme for Jesus? So we're going to look at that. And the first time that we see what it means to be extreme for Jesus is getting countered by this lawyer. And this lawyer is like pushing in on him. This lawyer is trying to trick him. This lawyer is pushing him. This lawyer is being a jerk to Jesus and trying to help him like win a case over Jesus. And so he poses this trick question: what's the greatest commandment? What's the greatest commandment? What's the greatest thing to get right in life? And see, this was a trick question because he knew that if Jesus answered the wrong way, he could get him. And so Jesus, under the scrutiny of all of that, takes that question and responds. He's like, you want to know what the greatest thing to do in life? He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And he continued, and this is what shocked him. And the second is like it. Some would say it's equal to it. It goes hand in hand. You can't detach it. It is a part of it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. Guys, when we truly encounter Jesus and we ask what matters most, what must we get right, what must we go extreme in, what must we be known for above all else, Jesus makes it real clear. He says you need to be known above all else as people who love God, and then equally love people. Loving God and loving people with everything you have, that you are recklessly bent towards worshiping God and loving your neighbor. That someone, when they encounter you, they should instinctively encounter what it means to be loved. When someone encounters you, they can't help but walking away saying, I've never felt so noticed, so valuable, so cared for, so listened to, so honored, so appreciated. Like no matter who steps in front of you, no matter who you're talking to, no matter where they're at in life and what they're doing, no matter where they are, where you are is so soaked in love that they can't help but encounter that. Guys, this is why we daily have to soak ourselves in Jesus. This is why just coming to church once a week, going to HSM once a week, it ain't going to cut it. What's got to happen is we have to commit to every day waking up and saying, Jesus, if I'm supposed to be your hands and feet, if I'm supposed to go extreme in loving others and loving you, I need to be overwhelmed by you every morning. I need your peace. I need your presence. I need your fruit in my life. Jesus, I need you to go so deep in me that when I am pressed, my natural response is you. Guys, for years, I was told that I needed to wake up and have a quiet time. I needed to go find my chair time. I needed to spend time with Jesus. And I kind of had that twisted in my head. I was kind of like the rich young ruler, and I thought that was so that God wouldn't be mad at me and that God needed me to do that for him. And the day came that I finally realized that was a lie, that God's not mad at me needing to like earn his favor, that God's madly in love with me. And the reason why I need to spend time with Jesus daily is because what's in me is a jerk. What's in me isn't nice. What's in me isn't kind. What's in me is not patient. And so I daily need Jesus to be nice. I daily need Jesus to be kind. I daily need Jesus to be patient. I daily need Jesus to not allow the evil that still lives in my heart to take root in my heart. I need Jesus daily so I can look a lot more like Jesus and a lot less like me. If we are to be known as extreme examples of what does it mean to love God and love others, man, we have to extremely say, Jesus, change me, fill me, work in me, flow through me, eradicate everything in me that is not of you, so that when I am pressed, when I have to respond, when words come out, they represent love. There's a second encounter where Jesus takes us a step further and he models what it looks like to live this way. See, on the last night with Jesus, the last night that Jesus was on earth, he was gathered all of his best friends, his disciples, the night before he'd be taken to the cross, like we talked about last night, and experience all of that. And so he gathers all of his best friends, all of his tribe around a table, and he does one more scandalous, mind-blowing thing. He models for them what extreme love looks like. He models for them what extreme love looks like. So let's read this. Here's what happens. He said, before the Passover celebration, which is like this huge celebration dinner, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave this world and return to his Father. He knew what was coming. He loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. I just love that it is quoted that Jesus loves us to the very end. It was time for supper, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon of Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything and that he had came from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table. He took off his robe. He wrapped a towel around his waist, and he poured water in a basin. And then he began washing the disciples' feet and drying them off with the towel that he had around them. Guys, the Son of God, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, poured water in a bowl, picks up a towel, and stoops to what have been the lowest job any servant could have had. And he goes to the table and he starts washing their feet. The Messiah, the ultimate, the goat of all time, lowers himself and he serves. But did you notice who was also sitting at the table? It's not just his friends at the table, is it? Judas is at the table. Jesus served Judas, the one who had stabbed him in the back, the one who would betray him, the one who would work with the local leaders to run this sham of a trial that would lead him to his death. He served the one who lied to him, who hurt him, who stole from him. Jesus served his enemy, the person who if it was me, I would have detested. Jesus stoops down and he serves him. And not only did he serve the enemy, but he sets up what it means for us to go extreme and to not be lukewarm. We're told that after washing their feet, he put his robe back on again, and he sat down and he asked, do you understand what I was doing? Do you understand? You understand what just happened? You call me teacher and Lord, and you're right, because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord, your teacher, the greatest among you, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. And don't miss this. I have given you an example. Do as I have done to you. Do as I have done to you. What does it look like to go extreme for Jesus? To get out of that lukewarm middle, to actually be used to make a difference in this world? It means that you need to lower yourself and serve others. It means serving others even when that person in front of you was the one who hurt you, who betrayed you, who makes you angry, the one who you want to cut out, you want to cancel, you want to retaliate against, that person who makes you sick in your stomach. Jesus calls us to the extreme of loving others and living lives so radically marked by him that it is just this natural outpouring that we love and serve everyone around us. How would the world change if our posture, if our way of talking, our way of interacting, our way of being known was being known as the most loving, the most kind, the most serving, the ones in your school that always honored people, that always spoke the truth, that never backstabbed, that never gossiped, because Jesus has changed you so much, you can't help but not only love God, but love others. And as you love others, you served and cared for and met the needs of everyone around you, lowering yourself, saying, I'm not going to use you for my pride and for my vanity and for my ego and for my followers and my social status, to not say, I'm going to use you to make me appear more important, but I'm going to love you and serve you and care for you because you are more important, because Jesus said to serve. Man, what would it look like for us to get out of the middle and to go extreme with how we love others? But this isn't the only time that night that we would encounter a water basin. See, in a few hours, Jesus and his disciples would go from that mill to a garden. And then in the garden, they would be surrounded by this angry mob. And then that mob would grab Jesus. His disciples would flee for their lives. Jesus would then be thrown into this sham of a trial with all the Jewish leaders, all the Pharisees. And they're going to start leading him towards his execution. But they couldn't find them. They could not they could not mandate a crucifixion to happen. Only the Romans could do that. So they had to drag Jesus before the leader of the Roman army in Jerusalem. They had to drag him in front of this guy named Pilate. Pilate. It's his job to determine who lives, who dies. He, with just a snap of the finger, can make your life amazing or make it over. And so Pilate steps up and he starts examining Jesus. He starts asking him questions. He then goes to the Pharisees. He examines the Pharisees. He asks them questions. He's like, hey, what is all of this about? So he asked them questions. And here's how this whole thing went. As the crowds gathered before Pilate's house that morning, he asked them, which one do you want me to release to you? At this moment, they're like debating, like he's going to give them back someone who he's taken in custody. He goes, do you want Barabbas? Which Barabbas was like a thief and a murderer. Or the one, or Jesus, who you call the Messiah. He knew very well that the religious leaders had arrested Jesus out of envy. Just then, as Pilate was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent him this message. Leave that innocent man alone. Pilate knew that they were doing this out of envy. His wife is saying, leave that innocent man alone because I suffered through a terrible nightmare about him. Meanwhile, the leading priests and the elders and the Pharisees, they persuaded the crowd not to ask for Jesus, but to ask for the murderer Barabbas. They asked for Barabbas to be released and Jesus to be put to death. So the governor asked, which of these two do you want me to release again? What did you just say? Are you really wanting that guy, like the murderer, over the dude who's healing people? Like you want the murderer? And the crowd shouted back, Barabbas. Then, what should I do? What should I do with the one called Jesus, who you call the Messiah? And the crowd shouted back, crucify him. Crucify him. Why? Why? Pilate asked. Why? Why are you wanting me to kill this guy? What has he done? What crime has he committed? But the mob roared even louder, crucify him, crucify him. And Pilate saw that he wasn't getting anywhere. And so he noticed a riot was about to develop. So he sent for a bowl. And in front of everyone, he poured water in the bowl. And he said, I am washing my hands of this innocent man's blood. This responsibility is yours. Pilate knew what it was like to be all in or all out. And when he encountered Jesus, and when he had a chance to stand up for Jesus, because he knew he was innocent, he knew he was being railroaded. He knew that these Pharisees were doing all of this out of envy. When he had a chance to seek out answers from Jesus and to understand more, and when he had a chance to stand up and encounter him, he decided, I'm not in. And he washed his hands, and he walked away. So before you walk away from Fall Retreat 2022, we got to ask, are you all in, or are you all out? Are you going to walk out of here radically committed to radically loving, or are you going to walk out and just say, hey, that was a really great weekend. The band's awesome. I love the zip line. That Jesus stuff, that's a little too much. And wash your hands. Guys, in just a moment, the band is going to come up. And as the band plays, the question that you have to ask today is, as you have encountered Jesus, as you have encountered Jesus through songs, as you encountered Jesus through these talks, as you encountered Jesus through the lives of the woman at the well, and through the rich young ruler, and through Nicodemus, and now through Pilate, you got to ask, when you encounter Jesus, which way are you going? But for the love of everything good and true, and the fact that there's millions of people dying and going to hell and desperately need to know what it means to have a Savior, please decide today, who are you going to be? All in or all out? Because the world does not need any more lukewarm Christians ruining the name of what it means to be a Christian. They need Christians who are saying, I am committed to radical love of God, a radical love of Jesus, and that radical love is defined by radically serving and laying down my life to be the hands and feet of Jesus and saying, I will go to the darkest, loneliest, hardest places and love unconditionally like Jesus went to the darkest, lonely, hardest places and he loved unconditionally. It is saying, Jesus, I will lay it all down. You fill in the blanks. My life is yours. You send me where you want me. Jesus, if you want me to be a missionary, I'm a missionary. You want me to be a pastor, I'll be a pastor. You want me to be a CEO and make $1 million and give it all away and fund ministry, I'll do it. Jesus, my life is yours. I'm radically, extremely in. Or I'm out. This matters. I don't talk a lot about my cousin. I got a cousin that I love like crazy. And my cousin, who I love like a sister, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt when her last day comes, she and I will spend eternity apart. Because she's encountered lukewarm Christians, one too many. And she's done with anything that even smells like Jesus. You may have crossed the line of faith. and your eternity might be secure in heaven. But if you choose to live a lukewarm life, you might be the greatest tool Satan ever uses to send more people to hell than you could ever imagine. Go extreme. Either be all in for Jesus or sit on the sideline and enjoy some free grace and figure it out with God when you get to heaven. But go one way or the other. Because lukewarm is the most dangerous thing you can ever be for eternity. Jesus, help us. God, I believe that your Spirit convicts, and I believe that conviction is the greatest gift you've given us, because conviction is your love saying, you matter too much to me to leave you right there. And so, God, I pray that right now you will convict in the most profound, painful ways. Convict us where we have chosen to be lukewarm. Convict us where we have chosen to play it safe. Convict us where we have chosen to just be mediocre and lazy. Convict us where we have just passively enjoyed fall retreat and passively enjoyed weekend gatherings and passively enjoyed HSM and passively just claimed to be a follower of you when nothing in our lives radically shows that we are truly a life changed by you. So Jesus, I pray right now that a wave of conviction comes in a profound way, and choices will be made to either be all in for you and to be marked by love and to be marked by service, to be marked by the fruit of the Spirit flowing out of us because a desperate world needs it, or to just call a spade and to say we're going to enjoy the free gift of heaven, but we're not going to taint it until then. God, help us to either be all in or all out, all for your glory. Amen.